Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We're going to present about Islamic Caliphate in Egypt. These are our group members. And these are the contents of our presentation.
Next, here is the infography of Islamic Empire in Egypt. Egypt country located in the northeastern corner of Africa. It is bordered by Libya to the west, the Red Sea to the east, Sudan to the south, and the Mediterranean to the north. Its topography consists mainly of a desert plateau, but the eastern part is cut by the Nile River Valley. For the social facts, social class is very apparent in Egypt since it determines your access to power and position. There are three social classes which are upper, middle, and lower. The economy in Egypt was based on Islam, introduced by the caliphs at the time. An early market economy and early form of merchant capitalism developed between the 8th and 12th centuries. For the education, mosques were used to spread knowledge as in Al-Azhar Mosque. Caliph Al-Aziz Billah established Al-Azhar Mosque as a university to teach scholars from Asia and Africa esoteric science and Ismailism. For the architecture, the Great Mosque of Muhammad Ali Pasha, also known as the Alabaster Mosque, is a mosque in Cairo. Islam is practiced by the majority of Egyptians and governs their personals and lifestyles. For the example, they are great people based on both class and the religion of the person. In addition, the family is the most significant unit of the Egyptian society. Before the Islam conquest, Egyptian Coptic Christians were persecuted under Byzantine authority due to theological dispute with the Byzantine Orthodox Church. Greek was the official state language for the administration and education. Also, Coptic architecture was widely built because the majority religion at the time was Christian.
Moving on to the next section, which is Rising and Climax. Egypt was conquered by the Muslim army that was led by Amr al-As in 20 Hijrah. When arriving in Egypt, he offered peace, jizya, or embracing Islam to the local authorities, but they rejected the offer. Since then, the battle began between the Muslim and Roman forces in Ain Sham. After that, they continued towards Alexandria and siege for 6 months began. Then, they launched an attack on Alexandria until the Roman forces were overwhelmed. Eventually, Alexandria fell to the Muslims. During Islamic Empire, Amr al-As, which is the leader of Egypt at that time, practiced Islamic principles of justice and equality for all people, whereas before this, the leader neglected the lives of the Egyptians and even enslaved them. The Egyptians were also willing to sacrifice a girl to be thrown into the Nile River in order to flood their land, but when Islam came, and with Allah willing, the river flooded twice as much as before.
For the following era part, Islam in Egypt started to decline in the 18th century. In that regard, France did not waste the opportunity to invade Egypt. Therefore, Napoleon Bonaparte led French forces to Egypt in 1798 to fight against the local rulers known as Mamluks. So, the factor why Egypt successfully conquered by France because at the time, Egypt experienced internal conflict and suffered the loss of the authority of a sultan due to the frequent replacement of sultan. Another reason why France wanted to conquer Egypt because they wanted to gather scientific and historical information about the country. This is because many in France thought that was an ancient civilization comparable to classical Greece and Rome. Then, Napoleon also introduced civic structures and brought to Egypt what he saw as benefits for Egypt. So, he launched a propaganda and manifesto campaign in order to enlist the support of the rest of Egypt. Other than that, he also utilized Egypt's government's power to achieve his goals. So, based on the information above, we can see that how narrow-minded the elites of the time, allowing Napoleon's purpose to fool them.
Next, for the part of reflections, first is the general lesson learned is that should obey the leader to win a war, as the leader chosen by the Caliph is the best one. Leaders must also have a solid strategy for governing the country in order to avoid being easily defeated by outside powers. Second is, Muslims should normalize Islamic life with the nature of faith in the leader in order to replicate past achievements. Furthermore, a leader must lead a country not only from a position of power and interest, but also with sincerity. That's why great leaders produce great leaders. The third is, the collapse of Islam in Egypt teaches us that a country's leaders must be innovative and look forward to governing the country. During the 18th century, Egyptian leaders were so easily duped by French propaganda that they suffered the repercussions. Therefore, the current generation must learn from these occurrences by becoming more vigilant for the country to remain safe and peaceful. The ayat quotation that related to the rising and climate plots. The first is, Prophet Muhammad stated that desire to fight enemy is forbidden. Do not wish to meet the enemy in battle, but if you meet them, then be patient. Sahih al-Bukhari. Although the Muslims wanted to conquer Egypt, they did not come to Egypt and immediately fight the enemy. This is because Rasulullah forbid Muslims from doing so. In Islam, before going to war, enemies should be called or invited to Islam and make peace. Second is, in the Holy Quran, Allah mentions about obedience to leaders. O you who believe, obey Allah and obey the Messenger and the leader among you, Surah An-Nisa. Muslims are commanded to obey the leader after obeying Allah and His Messenger, and even if an instruction is not mentioned in the Quran or Hadith, if it is issued by a leader, Muslims should obey the instruction as long as it does not contradict the religion. The third is about the falling or resolution plots. In the Holy Quran, Allah mentions about cooperations. And cooperate in righteousness and pity, but do not cooperate in sin and aggression. And fear Allah, indeed Allah is severe in penalty. Surah Al-An'am. As Muslims, we should cooperate with each other in order to bring unity to our community, especially for those that have power, like a leader.
And that is the end of our presentation. Thank you.